Yeah, we're again trying to get into practice today. Very important our next few days to get our mindset where we've got to be. I said it after the last game. We got to get our mojo back. We played an outstanding Florida team. You're talking about a team that number one in the country on senior night in their building, and they played well. And what I'm trying to get our kids is to understand, let's get back to where we were 2 weeks ago. Let's get back to the kind of competitiveness and how we were playing and some different things we're going to do in practice to try to get our mindset back to where we were. Young kids, you can get rattled on a game like that. But I think these kids they understand that they're going to have to do this together. They're going to have to come together as a group. And, it's time to do it.
First up is Terrence Harris, the New Orleans Times-Picayune.
Coach, how you doing?
Doing good.
Hey, I'm doing the story looking at the league's mandate for the kids go away, or at least they take that year from high school to go to college or do whatever. I want to talk to you just a little bit about how you feel like that's affected the college basketball game.
Well, I've said for years it should be 2 years. If you're going to let them go out of high school, then let them go whenever. The baseball rule won't work in this environment because there's no minor league stuff. So my belief is it should be 2 years. And if the NBA and the Players Association, who would make that decision, come together and say, okay, you take a year off their rookie contract instead of having 4 years, make them 3 years, make them stay in school an extra year, and then you get with the NCAA and say, hey, but now the NCAA, how do you take better care of these kids? How do you pay for their insurance so they don't have to pay themselves? How do you do the stipends and all the other things? Maybe the opportunity for every one of the kids on our team to get a loan if they choose to be able to do stuff to make them normal college students, yet also understand they're unique in what we're trying to do with them. So there are things that can happen. What's happened with the 1 year rule, I don't think it's good for high school players who all think the top 150 players think they're going to leave in a year. I think it's hard on the college players because by the end of the year, this isn't 5-8 years ago. Right now they're on the internet, all the things that are going on. I think it's a tough deal. So hopefully cooler heads come together between the NBA and the Players Association, and if that happens, the NCAA does their part to make this so that it all works.
How difficult has this made your job? I mean, now it seems like every year you're losing, quite a few players, quite a few first-year players. I mean, how difficult has that made your job in terms of recruiting and then keeping consistency in the program?
Well, it is hard, but again, if you're about these kids, you got to do what's right for them. So at the end of the year, I'm not going to convince a kid who's in the draft, or even DeAndre Liggins, who wanted to go in the second round, or Jody Meeks, who wanted. I'm good if I'm in the second round. I'm not holding kids back. So at the end of the day, I've got to do what's right for them. And I will tell you that 1 year, I don't think these kids are ready. Now, I'm not going to hold anybody back, but I think it would be better 2 years, that they'd be better pros, they'd be more mature, they'd be more ready to walk in and have success. But it's been hard, but I'm not complaining. I mean, I think we've done right by these kids. You have whatever it is, 17, 18 in the NBA and doing well. Yeah. It's not like they're not doing well, but they would even be doing better, I think, if they had another year. But I say this again, if their insurance isn't paid for by the NCAA or by the schools, all the things you're seeing kids in the draft, you're seeing the Mitch McGarrys who got hurt. What happens to a kid that was a top 10 pick that stays in school and now all of a sudden is injured? I mean, how do we deal with that? Because we're asking them to stay. And it's not us, it's the Players Association and the NBA. But how do we do our part to protect these kids? It's harder, but, you deal with it if it's about these kids.
Definitely. Thanks, Coach. That's great.
Next is Chip Towers of the AJC.
Hey, Coach.
How are you?
Great, thank you. Hey, look at it. Kentucky has quite a tradition playing in Atlanta. I've heard it referred to by Wildcat fans as Catlanta. I mean, do you feel what you're feeling coming into the tournament? Do you feel like it's particularly important this year that Kentucky plays well in it, and if you're handicapping, everybody knows about Florida. Anybody else that pops out at you?
Well, here's what I would tell you about us. Tournaments, conference tournaments. I mean, a couple years ago, we beat Florida in the finals, and we beat them really good, and it made no bearing on our seeding. That's why I'm saying, okay, what do we do? What is the conference tournament for? Some teams are trying to play in it, but I'm saying whether it's play in it or improve your seed, that's why you're playing in the tournament. That's my opinion. My teams historically over the years have done pretty good in tournament play, but it's not been the end-all. The end-all is that next tournament. So I would tell you that important for my team this year, yeah, we got to get our mojo back. 2 weeks ago, we were playing and we were looking pretty good, and right now we're not, so we got to get it back. We got 4 days of practice, and, and then we're playing in that tournament. I will tell you, there are probably teams that are playing well as they played all year. Now, Arkansas, the game at Alabama kind of surprised me, but they had been playing well. Tennessee is playing as well as anybody in our league. Georgia's playing as well as anybody in our league. What do you think about how Auburn goes to Texas A&M and when South Carolina beats us in Missouri at the end of the year? I mean, you got a lot of teams playing that could go on a run. You got other teams who have played well during different spells of the season, whether it be us or Missouri or some of the other teams. Texas A&M has fought to stay in games that are saying, all right, let's just get this back to where we were. And Mississippi, another team that won the tournament last year, probably coming in saying they're going to win it again this year.
Thanks.
Next is Kyle Tucker, the Courier-Journal.
Cal, not so much the intangible, confidence or whatever type things, teamwork, basketball specific. If you could have one thing get fixed about your team in the next, 4 or 5 days about the way you play, it would make the most difference. What would it be?
Well, there's two things. I can't give you there's a lot of different things, but the two things in the bigger picture, you got to sustain your defensive effort. You got to be scrappier. In other words, we all got to be playing the ball. We all got to do it for the entire shot clock. We've all got to have discipline because at the end of the day, we are a defensive team that's a good offensive post-up team. And then on offense, we just got to share the ball more. And very simple stuff to talk about, but we've got 4 days to really ingrain, let's get back to these things that we have done at different points in the year that we now say, let's do it for 40 minutes. If you do, you will have a ball playing. Scrappy as heck, diving, crashing. We're gonna be more physical in practice. The games have gotten more and more physical. Hands up and be physical. Put your hands up in the air on a drive and be physical. Put your hands up in the air in the post and be physical. We're going 4 days of that. The teams that have played that way have had a big advantage. So we're going back to that. But the other side of it is, look, we got to share the ball. We got to share the ball and create good shots for each other. I said it. We got the game to 6, and we took 2 of the worst shots with people open that I could have told you throughout the year, the last game. So those are the couple things that we're zeroed in on.
Thanks, Cal.
Next is Seth Emerson in the Macon Telegraph.
John, just a quick open-ended question about what do you think about Georgia's run here in the SEC?
I think it's been outstanding. I think Mark, and understand, we beat them when they didn't have their guard. They were one guard short. They had foul trouble, and all of a sudden they didn't have a guard on the court. But I'll tell you what he's done and how they played, and to go on the road and win a game that matters. That game mattered. It just tells a lot. And again, they struggled early, but it's a sign of a coach that keeps his team together and keeps them moving in the right direction. And right now, they believe as much as anybody in our league that they have a chance to win this thing.
Thanks.
Jerry Tipton in the Lexington Herald.
John, I was hoping you would elaborate a little on what you mean by mojo.
Just playing off of one another more into each other, more emotion for the good stuff that's happening in the game.